I have now switched over to the car that we just won from the George V Rally on the very tight and punishing streets of Paris. We are now moving to the open roads of the Swiss Alps. And well, because I haven't driven a Peugeot rally car up to this point, I figured I might as well do that now by driving the 205 T16 that I just won. So, gonna buy dirt tyres. Almost all of the rally events we do from here will be virtually dirt and or gravel events from here onwards. So that's why I decided to switch over to the 205. As it is now time to begin the Swiss Alps Rally. Race through this series of high-speed corners using full countersteer. So, 5 laps, you more or less get the point of how this works. Okay, let's go. And we are opening this up against the Toyota Corolla. I know this is probably going to make these next two races pretty easy for me to pull off altogether, but the truth is, I have not used a Peugeot yet, and I figured this was probably the best time for me to use a Peugeot. So that's what we're doing. Magnifique. And this is going to be very easy because we only score 4 points. But you know what? I think I should be okay with that. And I immediately spin myself out. But wait, I managed to do a full... I think it was a full 360 I did whilst I was at it. At least I'm pretty sure it was a full 360 that I did. But then again, as I said before, this event was going to be an easy one for me to pull off anyway. I mean, only scoring 4 points. Yeah, it's kind of obvious to say that I pretty much made this decision for funsies. And because this car is just so fast, even on the gravel no less, it certainly has its striking features when you consider just how well this car did. As well as ironically its 2 championship caliper drivers who wound up driving this car. It's fair to say that whilst a lot of people will often think, of course, that it was Peugeot who took the Group B category to new heights in terms of just how powerful the cars could be, it was technically it was technically Lancia that ultimately killed off the Group B regulations. Because, well, it was fair to say that even by the standards of the mid-80s, when safety was becoming more and more of a thing in racing, it was still merely an afterthought in most cases, until about the late 80s, when safety itself was starting to become more of a serious thing. Also, if there is one thing I can say about this car, it's that I've noticed it's very easy to spin. If you're not able to basically balance the amount of just horsepower and torque that you put into this thing. As in, you really have just got to be precise with your aims for when you choose to step on the brakes, and also for when you choose to basically get back on the power. Also, is this actually going to be the first lap where I managed to put together a full effort without... Never mind. And that's a wall. Yeah, I had no chance of preventing that spin. But at least I tried. Honestly, I have no doubt in saying this would probably be a very similar case if I was racing the Escudo around here. As in, I have no doubt in saying that just the amazing amounts of sheer speed and acceleration that I would be taking some of these corners, I think the Escudo would probably be going through something very similar to what I've gone through here with the 205. Like, I honestly feel as though the car itself might be just a little bit too powerful to take these roads at full speed. Yeah, I'm gonna make sure for the second race I don't drive this thing again. Because I'm not really having a fun time trying to just keep this car on the road. It's actually way harder to keep this car on the road than you think it is. And what's even harder than that is just trying to somehow prevent it from crashing. Because if there's one thing I can assure you I've done a lot of in this race, it's crashing. Crashing to the point of where it is even making me question my psyche's decision on knowing if this was really necessary. But I think by the time this is done, I will have more or less got about as much out of this car as I can physically get. Plus, since we're on tarmac, since we're not on tarmac, you might have guessed, of course, that these things are, well, to put it simply, much harder to drive on slippery road surfaces compared, of course, to smooth road surfaces. I think I actually prevented a spin that time. But yeah, I don't think I'm going to drive this thing again. I think I might actually consider changing cars once this race is over, because this car is very tail happy with just the amount of horsepower it has. And without traction control, it's almost impossible to fully tame. So, yeah. Also, if those engine revs didn't tell you anything, well, it's pretty obvious to say that this thing is, ironically, like the Delta S4. It's, well, a bit of an animal, to say the least. Yeah, I might as well save the replay, just because I don't have one of the 205 yet. I figured that might as well be in my best interests. But before we get on with race 2, I'm going to be changing cars to something that will be a bit less of an animal to drive, and hopefully a car that will manage to make the second race more interesting. And I think I know just the candidate. Yeah, let's use the Evo 4. Why not? Just because I'll have a bit more fun driving this thing. So this is the car we will drive for race 2. I gave it some thought, and I figured, well, since I'm not really going up against Group B cars anymore, I figure it's just easier for me to accommodate that by using what's essentially a Group A World Rally car, if that makes sense. Okay. Let's now get on with race 2. After I decided to switch over to a car that will hopefully be easier to handle. And what do you know, we're up against the Super Evo again. I wonder if I might be regretting this decision. Hopefully I won't. But we'll wait and see. I think I actually did pretty well with the Evo 4 last time, because the acceleration the last time I used this car, it actually wasn't too bad. I don't know how we'll do, but hopefully we should be okay. Because I believe I do have a good car acceleration-wise. And it looks like I'm proving that here again. Yeah, I had a feeling since it was 2 Evos in this race, we were going to be okay. He might be faster than me on the straightaways, but I am better than him through the corners. There is a reason why I switched over to the Evo 4. Because I just wanted to more or less make this more interesting. And I think I've done that already. Knowing me, of course. And already I have a 1.8 second lead. So I think it's fair to say I am clearly not regretting the decision I took to switch over to the Evo 4 for this, as I am now ahead by 2.3 seconds. So I think it's fair to say we're in good hands here. Providing I don't go for a spin like I did before. And got a snap of oversteer there on that corner entry, but this time around at least, I just have a lot more control in the car compared to what I had before. So I think it's fair to say the Evo 4 is definitely doing its job, is what me thinks. Most I can say, I intentionally made this race harder. I also knew, of course, that a lot of these hard rally events, they were not going to involve the Group B monsters. And I think it was for that reason that I chose the Evo 4. Because, well, I figured it was all but inevitable to say that sooner or later I was definitely going to drive one of the Mitsu Lancer Evos for one of these rally events. And as I would have guessed, my superior acceleration is helping me to pretty much glide my way through this race beautifully. And up to this point, I am definitely pulling away, as I now have an 8-second gap to the Super Evo. At least I think it's the Super Evo. But not here. Because here, my Evo 4 is very much doing the job beautifully. As I have now pulled out to a 10-second lead up front. So, I think whatever fears I might have had in terms of losing the lead up to this point, yeah, I would say at this point they've more or less been quashed. Because of just how charismatically well my Evo 4 is driving at the moment, in spite of a few mistakes by me. And I've gone too deep. You know what? It's okay. I figured there was going to be at least one area where the car was going to spin. It seemed almost inevitable to think that sooner or later the car I would use for this, whichever one it was, I was probably going to have at least one spin before this whole chain of events was out. Even though I'm not doing very well in terms of get in my car back on the road pro-efficiently. But you know what? I'm still convinced in saying we should be okay. As I now have a 7.3 second gap up front. And I am running wide. But I think that's okay because I am still in the position I need to be in just to stay at the front long enough to make a realistic charge for the win. As I am now 10 seconds clear of the Super Evo. So, I think it's obvious to say that if you pick a car with good acceleration, that, I think alone, is enough to pretty much give you the breathing space you need. In order to just quite simply go out and basically just score the win straight up. Which is ironically what the case seems to be here, and probably will be the case. So, off the final corner, it is going to be a new best lap time. A 1:35 flat was what I set in the end. And I pretty much dominated that race from start to finish. And beat the Super Evo in the end by 14 seconds. Right before the fade. Just goes to show that you don't always need the most powerful car in order to score the win. You just need a car that's got decent handling and acceleration, which is precisely what the Evo 4 has here. Anyway, let's go get our prize. What is it going to be this time, I wonder? The prize we get for winning the hard Swiss Alps Rally, not really hard, the Nissan 240 RS. I am gonna have to use this thing at some point because it has my racing number on it. It has the red 24 on both sides. And to those of you who do or don't know, well, I fly my colours under the number 24. Anyway. There we go. So that's now the Swiss Alps Rally cleared, after I used 2 separate cars to get it done. And now we have to think about what to do for Tour of Tahiti. I might just consider sticking with the Evo 4 for the next one. So we're now 47.3% complete. And where is the Nissan 240? Here it is. Above the E-Type. Yeah, I'm gonna have to make sure I use this thing at some point. It's becoming glaringly obvious to me that I will have to use this thing at some point. I could even use it next time if I really wanted to, but I don't know, I'll work something out. I will have to make sure I use this thing because it has my racing number on it. Just for the sake of noticeability. But yeah, Swiss Alps Rally is done, and next time will be the tour of Tahiti Rally, coming in the next episode.